Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 6 of ShrigleyTube TV. In tonight's episode, we've got a few various things going on. I've just returned from Tatton Park. I've been doing the classic car show there with the autojumble. It's Saturday night now. I'm going back tomorrow to finish off and do another day. I've left all the gear there. It was very quiet today, very quiet. So we've not made any money or even broke even yet, but I'm still hopeful that we can salvage something tomorrow. Now, this week's work, I started off, did a bit of video on the engine which had the little intruder pistons and the rear oil seal conversion and the leaky liner. So I finished dynoing that, so I did a little video on that. And then the chat with the police imp that I did the retorque on the head, that came back because the clutch wasn't disengaging and he was really stuck and he had loads of shows to go to. So I don't do mechanicking work because I'm too busy building engines, but I just felt sorry for him and I thought, you know what, I can do a step-by-step for the YouTube video. So if any of you imp owners out there want to do a clutch yourself, you should hopefully be able to tackle it yourself after watching this video. So I did that, and then we did a little bit on me and my brother getting the race box full of gear ready to take to the autojumble. So I've got Russell with me today. He's had a really good time. He sold some of his second-hand toys, which was great. His confidence building all the time. You can see it the way he deals with the customers, and it was really nice to see how happy he was that he made his £8 or £9 or whatever, which was immaterial. It was just about the experience, but all good stuff. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow will be a nice dry day and the customers will come and we'll sell some treasure, because I need to make space in that unit to get the space frame built, and whilst it's cluttered with all that stuff, I'm too busy with work to mess about. I need to just get rid of it. It's going to go in the skip if I don't sell it. Okay, hope you enjoy this week's video. I'll speak to you next week. Thanks for now. Bye-bye. Evening, YouTubers. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to start off with a little session in the dyno. This is the naughty 998 that's been a problem. Actually, it's a 1012cc. It had the leaky liner. You might remember it earlier on in the last week's show. So I fixed it. It's been good today and yesterday. I finished running it in. I'm going to give it a bit of pain. It's just running on what I call my slave carbs and manifold, because the chap didn't have the carburetor as a manifold when he dropped it off. So he said, I'll just run it on yours just to prove the rest of the engine, which is what I'm doing. So it's always good if they're going to do like this one, the failure with the liner leaking. I'd rather it happened in here than when he's fitted it in his car where he lives, you know, because it's a pain to sort out then. So I'm always pleased in a weird way when we have a failure on dyno. Anyway, I'm quite excited because I've been on holiday and I've not run this on a dyno for like 2 weeks, and I'm having like withdrawal symptoms. I really think I'm a bit weird in that I enjoy loading an engine up and listening to it work. So I hope you do too. It's, to give you a bit of spec, it's a 73mm bore, so it's 1012cc. It's got a big valve head on it, Chessman one, and it's got an old school R22 cam, which is a bit groggy off cam, but once it gets about 5.5, it clears up and it's okay. And we've got it on the slave Delautos and a Fraser manifold. So I'm expecting to see between like 90, 95 horsepower, that sort of area, and an half decent mid-range spread of torque. So it should be quite nice in his car, as I think it's like a rally car that it's going to go in. So I'm going to get on with that. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, we're on a dyno running now with the leaky liner engine. All's good. It appears to be holding oil with our new oil seal conversion. Torque's quite good on it as well. Compression ratio, I forgot to mention it before, was 11.4 to 1 with those little intruders we made on them milling machine on the pistons. It's helped it up a little bit, so that's all good. We'll just wind him on and see how much torque he's got. At 4, he's holding about 70, 68, 74 pounds, which is good. R22 cam this, so it's like a rally cam, quite friendly. A lot of people like the R22. We'll just back it off and we'll go for a sort of a 6. We're not going to go crazy because it's all brand new. That's a 6000, it's holding 75. Oh, don't want to rev him too much, but yeah, I could see he was holding the power. I reckon it's a good 95 horsepower. Right, now the proof of the pudding is in the eating and all the rest of it. What we'll do is we'll go live straight in the dyno now and have a look at the rear oil seal and see if it's dry or if it's sealed. and I'll just throw the phone across the floor. Right. It appears to be dry. Right, YouTubers, just on the miller here, skimming a block, and I thought, oh, I could use this as a bit of an example of what I talk about quite a lot, which is where the block sags or sinks. So this is an 875 standard imp engine, and it was worn out. I refreshed them by putting them on the Talbot Sunbeam 930cc pistons. So we go from 68mm to 70mm, so it's like plus 80 thou. Plus 2 millimeters on the bore, and then I give them a quick flash over and just any settlement where the liners have gone low. Well, it's not actually a liner because it's part of the block, and then you can see inside. It's a really good example there because it's always been cleanly machined. You can see this is the cast-in liner with the aluminium flash at the top. So it's been bored to 70mm. I've just run across it. I did a 3 thou touch on just to make sure everything was level, and then I've done another 5 since. So I'm at 8 thou cut, and if you look, you can see the tip hasn't cleaned up round here. So this part of the engine block is low. It's typical that they sort of do this and like that. So I'm going to put one last cut on, and hopefully we'll get it within like 10 or 12 thou. So I don't want the pistons to protrude too much, and we'll be there with this. But just a thought, I'd drop that into the ShrigleyTube TV, a little bit of information. It's why it's so important if you are having head gasket issues with your imp and you've had the head skim, then it's still been a problem. It could be that the liners are just a little bit low and you're not getting the pinch on the firing on the head gasket that you require to make it all seal properly. Okay, just got the little 930 engine that we machined the face on the other day in the wash tank. I thought it worth mentioning something. If you ever decide to blast, or I use the aqua blaster to clean the blocks, then you've got to make sure you get rid of all the media. So you can only really do it on an engine that you can get to all the oil galleries. So on the imp, we've got one big main gallery down the back here that goes from one end to the other. So we can get the pipe cleaner in there and give that a good agitation. And then on the front, this is the one that goes across and feeds the rear main. So we can get in that one as well and give that one a good cleaning. This is the centre one, obviously this goes across to the main gallery and feeds the centre main, feeds bearings 2 and 3. That's a very critical one, and that's the one that does the front main. So I'm lucky with this block, I'm able to get to all of the main bearing galleries to clean them, because the media that's in like these Vixen type blasters, it's designed to obviously break down all the muck and corrosion, and if it gets in your bearings, it absolutely crucifies the engine. I've seen it loads of times, not with my own personal jobs because I'm aware of it, but you know, where people have had things blasted or powder coated and the shot or the media has got into the oil system and it just wipes the bearings out. So you've got to be careful what you're doing with it, but it's a brilliant way of cleaning the engines. As you can see, it makes them real nice and shiny. Right chaps, guess who's back? The little police imp, the one we did the head retalk on the other week. It's unfortunately, it's got a problem with the clutch not disengaging properly, and the chap wants to use it this weekend, so I felt a bit bad for him. I thought no one else local could source it, so I said, if you can get it to me, I'll throw a clutch in it for you. So I just thought to myself, I'll make a little video on how to change the clutch on an imp, because it's really easy. So I'll just miss the first step because I hadn't thought in time, but I've undone the bumper, which is 2 bolts, so that's very straightforward. If you're stuck on that, then don't bother going any further. Second thing I'm doing is I'm draining the antifreeze into a tray so we can reuse that, because it's recently had the head gasket, so it's fresh antifreeze. And then the next stage after that is I'm going to undo these little bolts here. You see them, there's one here and one lower down, and then this one, and that'll mean that the rear transom can come off and will support the engine with a jack. So I'll crack on with that. Right, once the coolant's virtually out of the bottom of the radiator, we'll just nip that up, and then there's another drain tap on the underside of the block which we'll go to next. Bring the tray over without spilling it everywhere. So the next one is under the one on here. You see it there? To undo that one, and hopefully we get the remainder of the coolant out of the engine before we take it out. Another thing to note was, I find it easier to just remove the battery. It's just a simple wing nut clamp on it, a couple of cables, and then that gives us access to the top bolt and the bottom bolt on the transom, and then we can get the engine out. Okay, the transom's all disconnected now, both sides, so the only thing holding it on is a big bolt in the middle. Now, regards taking the carburetor off, because we're going to slot the engine out to change the clutch, the easiest way, in my opinion, but obviously everyone's got their own idea, is I don't like disturbing all these cables. So what I'm going to do is undo these 3 bolts here that hold the carburetor to the manifold, and I'll place the carburetor up here with a zip tie holding it out of the way, and then it's just easier when it comes to go together. And the other thing I wanted to say was, jacking the imp up, we've got to get underneath it now to undo the bell housing bolts. But very important, no matter how good the sills look on your imp, don't bother trying to jack them up on the sill edge, because it always flattens them. So I like to use a piece of wood and go under the cross member there. It's good and strong there, you'll not mark it there. Right guys, I'm just about to remove the carburetor, and something I wanted to stress is a really important part of doing something like this. It's just good practice, because it will catch you out if you're not careful. Is as soon as you remove the carburetor, what we do is we bung the hole, because that hole leads into the engine, and if anything goes down that hole, a little washer or a bolt or anything, we end up with the engine creep. Okay chaps, we're underneath the car now. As you can see, I've put an old wheel underneath there, so if the jack were to fail, I wouldn't end up being squashed. So we can see the bell housing bolts, you've got to use a spanner on that one, you can't get a socket. There's one there, another one at the top, and then we've got some on the starter motor side as well. So undo all the bell housing bolts, and then we can get back on top and carry on disconnecting. Right, there's only one bolt on the entire job that's a bit sticky for me, I find anyway, and that is the bottom starter motor bolt. So you can see we've done the bell housing bolt there, and then just above it I've got the spanner on one end of it. It goes right through the bell housing and the engine and into the bottom of the starter motor. So you can see I've just put a socket on it. What I like to do is this: I like to put all my extension bars together, and I bring them all the way out to the end here, and I undo it from there, because it's the easiest way. You can remove the radiator, but it comes off quite easily that way. And while I'm here, just look at them 4-pans. This is a lovely imp, this. I'd like to try and buy it, but yeah, probably a bridge too far. My God guys, I just had an alarming moment. I just took the little grill off that protects the back of the flywheel, and I found this on this lovely old imp. Contamination. 2 M6 bolts and nuts. They're gonna go, we're gonna get rid of them. We're gonna put proper quarter UNF bolts back in. I absolutely hate it when people contaminate a lovely imp with metric rubbish. Well, it's not rubbish, but metric. Let's go and find someone to give this to. Jimmy? It's Jimmy, isn't it? Albert? Yeah. Just has found some contamination on my car. M6 nuts and bolts, you want them?
Yeah, you have them. Put them in the skip.
I'll put them in your toolbox for you. There you go. That's got rid of them. Right, I brought him off the jack again now, and I'm supporting him using an old imp battery. What I've done is I put that under the gearbox, because when we take the engine out, the gearbox will just fall down on the shafts, and then it stretches the clutch slave cylinder. So by putting the battery under the gearbox, we now can remove the rear transom, and we can start undoing the rest of the ancillaries. Right, that's the engine supported on the battery underneath now. So it's hanging on its bell housing bolts, won't bother it in the slightest. And I've undone some wires, just ignition wires, stuff like that. You can label all this up if you're going to be taking it apart for any length of time, but I'm back together in an hour, so I should be fine with all that. You have to undo the starter cable as well, which is this one. I've just hung that up there, and same tool as we used with the bottom bolt on the starter motor, so the big long one. We'll get this on here. I've removed the dizzy cap as well, just to give us some more access, so we can undo that one. And then there's some water pipes. That's the bypass hose there. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. So that's the bypass hose, and then you've got the thermostat hose, and then there's another one at the back there which you can't actually see, but you've got to undo all those hoses and pull them off before you remove the engine. And yeah, we should be good to come out. Then we'll put the jack underneath it and we'll go through that together. Right, we've got the final check. All the hoses are off, rubber hoses at the back, and it's ready to come out. What are you doing? What are you doing videoing me?
Making pictures
What for?
to go on the GMC website.
Oh my god. Right, gently, now we've got the weight supported by the trolley jack, we're just going to wiggle the gearbox back, the engine off the gearbox gently. But I can't video that and hold the phone at the same time. Right, I've just dragged the engine out on the trolley jack. Came out really easily, to be fair, and it's really obvious what the problem is straight away. Obviously, if you can see in there, you can see the release bearing is it's countersunk, it's worn that badly, and it's even started catching the clutch cover there. Now, the clutch is cream crackered, so we'll replace the whole lot, but I've got a suspicion that what's possibly happened here is we've got a situation where the new owner may, I don't know, be treating it like a modern car where you leave your foot on the clutch at traffic lights and stuff like that. And it's really important with an imp, when they've got a carbon ring as a release bearing, that you just literally leave it in neutral at the lights, or whenever you're parked up and the engine's running, you just put it in gear when you're about to go. Otherwise it just wears that carbon ring like what we can see here. Right, I've been having a bit of a dilemma. I've fitted the new release bearing, that was straightforward enough, and I've put this Laycock type cover on. This is my clutch alignment tool, so you pop that in the block, put the clutch on, and then that means that everything lines up, so it gives you the best chance of getting the engine on the box first time. Now, that's the original clutch, which is an aftermarket one. I don't like those, they're quite heavy. This is all that's available for an imp, which is new, just a bit shop foiled. I don't like these either. And I had this second-hand Laycock imp one, which I know gives a really nice pedal and makes them drive really nice. So I've given him a bit of a clean up where it needs to be cleaned, and we're going to give that a whirl, and hopefully that'll get us into next year where we can maybe look at trying to find him a nice new clutch, a reconditioned one. But there just isn't anything available for the imp at the moment. It's really hard to copy because there's loads of small clutches, but we need this diameter to stay no bigger than that because it catches that ledge inside the gearbox there. So quite a tricky thing, an imp clutch, you can't just put anything on it. Okay, when you come to put the gearbox and the engine back together, I've got it on the trolley jack, and by holding onto the exhaust tailpipe and the alternator, I can manipulate it quite easily into position. Now obviously I can't hold the camera and do that at the same time, but the important thing to remember is you've got to get the gearbox and the engine at the same height, and then it'll just slot together lovely. Right, well, for once that actually went quite well. Now I just wanted to stress the importance, when you come to fit the engine back in, you get it all level, go in with your jack, give it a jiggle. You can sometimes turn the crank pulley, which helps the splines line up for the first part. Now, unless the engine butts right up to the bell housing, you can't tighten the bell housing bolts, because the last part that the clutch goes into is the spigot bush in the end of the crankshaft. Now, it has to be in there before we try and tighten it. Now, yeah, sorry, someone walking past. Now, if you try and clamp the bell housing to the engine with the clutch spigot not correctly aligned, it just mangles it all. So really important that we get that positive clonk before we tighten the bell housing bolts. And then obviously reattaching everything, we're going to start. I've took the battery out from underneath the gearbox now. I've lowered the engine down, so I've got all this lovely room now to put the water pipes on and get the carburetor back on, etc. Right, chaps, it's all back together. Put the coolant in, the battery's back on, all the connections are as per. I've done a little modifications to the carburetor as well to hopefully stop it from dripping fuel when he turns it off. Ignition's on, in neutral. Oh, we can have a clutch. This wasn't meant to happen. I've broken it. Just the fuel coming through. Oh, I love the standard Hillman engine. Right, will it go into gear? Oh, beautiful. Where's the bike point? Oh, there. Oh, you like that. Oh, it's lovely. God, it's like a pudding stick. It needs a new flexi. First, second, third, fourth. And reverse. Great. We'll call that job done. Go and check the back end. Lovely, sweet little thing. Keep him topped up. Didn't spill any, so we should let it put back in what we took out. Have a little bleed here. And do that. And a little red. Check the fluid levels again once we've been for a drive, but it's all good. Right, been for a test drive. It's absolutely good as gold, which is nice. So I ain't doing the job twice. So I'm just going to have a little game here with my mate at the garage at the bottom. I'm on private land in case you're wondering why I'm driving around with a phone in my hand. And we'll throw the horns on and see if we can get his attention. Looking for a spectacled man, about 60 years old. Is he at this premises? Oh, there he is. I've had reports of you overcharging.
Overcharging? If you only want first round here, overcharging.
Right, I'm gonna cut. Right, this is for YouTube. I'm cutting a video now. You start abusing me. Right, job done. Right, we're all loaded for Tatton Park. Some treasure in here for you lucky customers. Look at that, absolutely brimmed. I'll say a big thank you to our Chris for helping me. Cheers, our kid. Wouldn't have done it without him. Bergerac, look at him. He's like a hawk. Look at him itching.
Compared to you.
What out of that would you have if I gave you like a free chance?
If only I had the space.
Is that the biggest collection of treasure you've ever seen in your life, or what? Look at that. Look at the quality. XJ40 wheel trim. Pinto cam cover. 2.8 Granada exhaust. This is just, I think we're going to make, we're going to do some good money this weekend. Right, over and out. Right, we're all set up on the stand, aren't we, Ross? We've got some stuff for sale. Yeah. Are we going to do well?
Yeah.
Hopefully. This is my dad. Dad, say hello.
Hello.
And this is all the gear. This is the treasure. Look at all that treasure. Let's hope we sell something. Stay tuned. It's midday on the Saturday. We've not sold much. It's a bit quiet at this Tatton Park stand. This is Ron Speed's stand. This is Ron Speed. Many of you Hillman people will recognise Ron from the Imp Speed business. You sold it off now, Ron?
I didn't sell it, I just shut it.
Just shut it.
I'd stolen it anyway.
Made your millions and then just closed down.
I'd stolen it anyway.
I just spotted this on your stand. I think this rev counter would be ideal for one of my customers called Mike Loveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes using lots of RPM.
Yeah.
How much is it?
20 quid.
20 quid. Would you take £3.50?
No.
Right.
Well, it's you, no.
It's learnt behaviour because that's all I've had all morning.
Yeah. I've not done too bad, really.
Oh, well, yeah, rub it in.
Yeah, I've not had two. I think he's done the best.
I know. How much have you made, Russ? 7? How much?
£7.
Wow, on second-hand toys?
Yeah, pretty good.
You made 50 something.
50. Well, it wasn't all profit, mate, because it owed me money in the first place. So, yeah, brilliant. Right, wonderful. Hope the sun stays out.